Hey Roadrunners, welcome back. I'm hoping you can hear me. I am doing something new here. And what I found out on Yahoo News or Sports was an article about misery index. And what I find interesting is the choice of words in regards to Jeff Traylor being associated with all these new these new coaching openings. And I think it's just funny that they use the terminology, the funniest gag in college football. How's it a gag? Well, let's just start right there. How is it a gag? Can someone explain that to me? So my point is, you can call it a gag, but then how can you later, in the same paragraph, was linked to Texas A&M, which he interviewed for very poorly according to sources. Which sources are those? So you say it's a gag, but then you admit that it happened for Texas A&M. See, this is what I don't like. This kind of stuff is written by probably, I don't know, somebody at rivals.com. You know, they're mad at Coach Traylor over a loss, right? And it is true that they do run to UTSA and say, hey, you know, are you leaving UTSA? Well, everybody knows any coach at UTSA is going to leave if a truly better job comes up. One, I can tell you that he did interview for Texas Tech. Two, I can tell you I knew before Joey McGuire was hired that they were offering $4.1 million. That's my source. You can trust me on that. So tell me it's a running gag, right? Tell me it's a running gag. And say it with a straight face, because it's not. I know Houston came a-calling. Those three I know of. Now, mind you, those all came before this current year. You can't use this current year's performance. You can use last year's, but you can't use this current year's performance. And you can't use that and say it's a gag now, right? It could be a gag now, but let's get back to this article, right? Run to and pledge his loyalty. They say first, Oklahoma State. Maybe I misread this because they're asking about his public loyalty pledge to UTSA, right? Maybe that's what they're talking about, and he said. And so they say, walk across coals all the way to Stillwater. He wouldn't say he's going to do it. Look, there's enough people to know that this would get out, right? There's never been a shred of evidence any major program interesting beyond an exploratory conversation. Yet they say he interviewed for. That's more than exploratory. You guys all know this. You guys have all been through the process of looking for a job. If they call you in, that's more than exploratory. That's finding out if you're the right fit, if you can do the job. Unless you are literally just being called in big corporate America, and they already know who they're going to hire. You've been through it all. All of y'all have been through it. They already know who they're going to hire. They just have been told by HR to remove the image of impropriety, bring in 8 more people. We don't care if you take this person, but just at least bring in 8 more people, right? No different than is it the Rooney Rule for teams interviewing black head coaches in the NFL? Look, they already know who they want. Yeah, they'll bring them in. They still ain't going to hire them, right? They're going to hire who they want if they're available. That's just how it is. That's life. Anyway, so they talk about 2-3 after 27-21 loss to Temple on their way to 3 straight years of declining results. Nobody in their right mind would say 9-4 is a declining result from the previous 2 years' highs. Previous year's highs. No one expected us to go 11-0. Absolutely no one. And we did it. UTSA did it. UTSA won 12 games that season and did 12-2. They won every game in Conference USA, right? So You can't go through this article and actually take articles like this seriously because of the way they're written, the way they're dumbed down, right? They're clickbait. Now this could have been written by AI because it took no thought. It took absolutely no thought. Do I think Traylor is losing his ability to jump ship? Absolutely. You can say that. That would be accurate. But to call it a gag and to say there's never been a shred of evidence, and then in the same article say there's been a shred of evidence. Texas A&M, pretty big job. Texas A&M is a pretty big job. And you literally said, now, did they end up offering him? No. But they brought him in. That's far more than, hey, let's back the Brinks truck up and hand it to you because your name is Nick Saban. Nobody's saying he's Nick Saban. There's not a single coach out there in college football right now, and you see it, that is safe. Mike Gundy. He wasn't safe. Team was going bad. He wasn't safe. He loved his university. He was taking a pay cut for his university when they let him go because that's how awesome of a man he is. You can talk about it's one of the best memes ever. I'm a man. I'm 40. But there was a lot of truth to what he was saying and sticking up for his kid, specifically at that time when people are calling a college quarterback who's literally trying his best. And yeah, you know what? He didn't succeed for Oklahoma State, right? In the way that people were expecting him to succeed. But you still don't call the kids names. You guys have heard me say we need a different QB. I still won't go on record and say calling names that, that quarterback was being called names back when Gundy was a man and was 40. Right? And times are different now. These are paid athletes. Don't make any mistake about it. These are paid athletes. These are absolutely paid athletes. Whether they get paid well or not, well, you know what? That's on them and whoever does the NIL, right? Now, could Traylor leave us at the end of the season and become an assistant head coach? Yeah, maybe. Does he want to? He's not going to. And make decent money as assistant head coach. He's not going to. He's making money, big money. He's living in West San Antonio, which is a beautiful part of the state, beautiful state of Texas. We'd all love to make the money that a college head coach makes at any sport, right? Even at UTSA, and be able to and live on the west side of San Antonio, right? Don't cry for any of our head coaches, our soccer head coach or anything like that. They're doing okay in San Antonio, right? They are all doing okay in San Antonio. Now, this tells me, what do you think if you're a football player and you show up to practice in summer and you're just baking in that San Antonio sun, even at 8 a.m. in the morning? You're doing two-a-days. You're wearing helmets. You're wearing pads. You might be lucky to only wear the helmet and to go padless in practice, right? And you're going full out. You're not just standing around. What do you think's happening to those kids year after year after year? They're melting. The program needs a covered practice facility. And I think, in my personal opinion, this is where UTSA is going wrong and doesn't see the forest through the trees. Why does basketball and volleyball need a practice facility? Hear me out now. But why do they need that practice facility, which is indoors, when they already have the rec center that they could use? They have the facilities to practice there. They've got the combo that they can practice there. Now, granted, I know that the women's volleyball team doesn't have a locker room, yada, 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 and stuff like that. I remember that. I don't know if they have that now. Our previous volleyball coach would lament about that, and I get that. But hear me out. If you're a football player for the University of Texas San Antonio, and you have a choice to bounce, do you stay at UTSA? Or do you go to some place that might have better facilities for everyday living, so to speak? Me, I put that covered facility up because it's going to be cheaper than that big giant practice facility. I put that covered facility up, and then I start the practice facility the very next year. That's just me. Because that covered facility would suffice our football team for a decade before we had to worry about really any more big upgrades. And if you're wondering why I stopped donating, that's one of the reasons. Basketball does not bring the revenue that football does. Basketball has made the NCAA tournament multiple times in my lifetime. Not one time has anybody ever mentioned my university when that's happened. But I can 100% guarantee you, everywhere that I have worked, come football season, my university name has been mentioned by other people because of the football team. Soccer setting records. No one I know gives a crap about it. And that's okay. I'm not saying they have to care, right? But understand what I'm telling you. Your degree is looked upon better because you have a football program. Absolutely is. For basketball, you'd have to be a powerhouse like Duke. But then again, Duke's had a football team for how long? North Carolina has had a football team for how long? Remember, March Madness is a new thing in my life. Look at the NCAA tournament, look at the NIT, and look when that started. Do you care that somebody went to Gonzaga? You find out somebody went to Gonzaga? Do you go, hey, your basketball team's freaking awesome? Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But I know you don't care if their soccer team's good. The general public doesn't care. Our baseball team's doing great. Nobody has ever said, hey, look at your football team. I mean, baseball team, to me. Nope. Never happened. And I'm the guy that goes to work wearing nothing but UTSA polos. I have UTSA in my cube. Think about what I'm saying. But my football team wins a big game. Oh yeah, people are like, hey, yeah, UTSA, y'all did good this weekend. We don't have the right administration that knows how to grow our athletics department as fast as it can. Our previous was doing the best they could. This one has had the success of a football program, and they fumbled it. The result on the field is part of it. And I think Coach Traylor is probably kicking himself in the butt for anything and not taking a move out of San Antonio more seriously. He's a family guy, cares about his kids, where they go to school. And you guys all know the area of San Antonio that he lives in, so it's a good area. He could live there for the rest of his life and not have to worry about money. Right? And his kids would have access to a great high school. They're probably getting pretty close to finishing high school. And that's probably what has stopped him in the past. But this article right here, this paragraph is a joke. If this trajectory continues, it'll be valid to ask if Traylor's coming back, but at that point it won't be his decision. You know who wrote that? Someone who's stupid and doesn't understand we don't have the money to pay him off. He will play his final contract. Us paying Wilson for 2 seasons, we had to pay him for 2 seasons, hurt our football team immensely. Immensely when it came to paying Mooney and Stein and stuff like that, right? Now, of course, they went and they're making G5 head coach money right now, right? At a lot of the smaller G5s because they're at Illinois and Oregon. But let's put it into context. Travis Bush was our first offensive coordinator, right? We all know this. He's down at UTRGV. They're doing great things. He left us to go to Houston, right? He went from being ROC to their running backs coach, and I think doubled his salary for a year. Doubled. Went from ROC to like their running backs coach and doubled their salary. Doubled his salary. Do I think our head coach is making too much money? Yes and no. One, we can't afford to pay him $2.5 million a year and keep quality assistants, if that makes sense. Hence why he's promoting from within. If we could afford quality assistants, he would be worth every dime of that $2.5 million a year he's getting. And I mean this. I have other issues with Traylor and his, for lack of a better phrase, stubbornness with his current OC and the way we've done things to develop players. Specifically at the running back position and specifically at those 2 positions, running back and QB. Why did our 3 running backs run off? They all ran off. You can't tell me UMass really paid Rocco Griffin that much money. I mean, maybe they did, but it was probably more than what we did, right? But maybe Rocco was unhappy with his carries. Kavorian, there was a falling out there, so of course he's going to leave. Luckily, Robert Henry came back and was up until last week doing great for us. I think that's a lot of offensive scheme that ROC hasn't quite figured out to see on the field yet, right? I think ROC needs a spotter. And that comes down to money, being able to pay a spotter to leave their job or at least be able to fly in day of the game, right? Fly out that day, whatever. See what I'm saying? That's where we're stuck with. But I do know putting a practice facility before putting a covered practice facility behind a combo facility for volleyball and basketball was a terrible decision. And it will come back to haunt us when it comes time to replace Coach Traylor. Anyway, Roadrunners, peace out. Birds up.